The ALS50 is myself, Kyle Wallace, and Jay Thompson, and what we're going to do is we're going to run the distance from Kingsville, Ontario to Windsor, Ontario, a distance of 51.3 kilometers, and what we're aiming to do is raise awareness, and we're also aiming to raise some much needed funds for the Windsor-Essex County ALS Society. Windsor-Essex County ALS Society was there for Kyle and his family while they were dealing with Kyle's father having been diagnosed with ALS, and they provided a much needed support to his family while they were dealing with this terrible disease. And it was just kind of it's our way of giving back to them when they provided Kyle and his family with so much during their time. How can I give back something and make some sense out of this crazy long distance running that I was doing at the time? And I thought, Kyle just immediately came to mind because of the situation with his father and what he had dealt with. And I thought, this is probably a really good opportunity for us to, again, raise some funds and awareness for this terrible thing, this tragedy that afflicted his family. So it just kind of naturally started to come together with this. I sent him a random text message and said, I've got this idea. What do you think about it? And I think he was equal parts shocked and so grateful that this opportunity came about, and he was just on board immediately from there. And we brought in Jay because Jay was I was just running with Jay all the time, and I just thought, he seemed like he was up for the idea, and he really didn't have a lot on his race calendar at the time, and we just kind of got to talking about it, and he just kind of threw his hat in the ring and said, yeah, of course, I'll do it with you guys too. So he's been also a very big player in this, and getting sponsorship and just getting the word out there. So Jay's contribution cannot be undermined at all in this. So the three of us have been working really well together to try to get as many people on board and finding sponsors, and so it's been a really good dynamic between the three of us. So.
From what I understand, it's a neurological disease that attacks the particular fatty sheath around the nervous tissue called the myelin sheath, and that's what degenerates and causes slow muscle loss. Given the fact that it might be years before it happens, it's basically something that just sort of degenerates before you slowly lose the ability to lose the muscle, and then it sort of, after that, falls apart and actually begins to waste. That's it in a nutshell. With him, it was, at first he pretty much thought he had frozen shoulder. He came home from Florida and thought that basically something was wrong, or he had injured himself when he was down south, and basically his right arm, he couldn't move it, sort of like the symptoms of frozen shoulder. And as time went on, they did a series of tests. They couldn't find anything else wrong, and with ALS, there is no diagnostic test. So they go through a bunch of other things before they get to that point. And during that testing period, the muscle tissue actually began to degenerate, and that's when they came to the conclusion that it was ALS. So in the early stages, that's how it presented itself. Was just the inability to move his right arm. As time went on, he slowly began to lose the function of the left arm and the shoulder group, and it basically attacked the shoulder and neck muscles, so he couldn't hold his head up any longer. And once that happened, we had to basically get wheelchair access into the house, because his ability